Nandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari and Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone. So thank you all very, very much for being present here this morning for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. I would like to personally congratulate and appreciate each and every one of you for taking your valuable time so early in the morning when you could be doing so many other things, but instead you're taking your time to tune in from wherever you are. Some of you driving cars, please be careful while you're tuning in and watching the class. So I just want to express our gratitude. So this morning we have a few verses that we are going to go through, reading from the 10th canto, which is known as the Summum Bonum, and also recognized as the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So this Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, reading chapter 72, and starting with verse 12, and starting with verse 12, and we'll go up to 14. Let me just make a slight adjustment here for a moment. There, that might help others also. Okay, so they can still see it, and you all can see it also, right? Kind of. Yes, a bit better. Okay. Okay, so we'll read the first one.
This verse 12.
Yeah.
Sukadev Goswami said, upon hearing these words sung by the Supreme Lord, King Yudhishthira became joyful, and his face blossomed like a lotus. Thus he sent forth his brothers, who were empowered with Lord Vishnu's potency to conquer all directions.
Text 13.
Text 13. He sent Sahadev to the south with the Srinjayas, Nakul to the west with the Matsyas, Arjuna to the north with the Kaikayas, and Bhima to the east with the Madrakas. Text 14. After defeating many kings with their prowess, these heroic brothers brought back abundant wealth for Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was intent on performing the sacrifice, O king. The purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, it may be noted that by dispatching his younger brothers to conquer in different directions, King Yudhishthira did not actually intend that they declare war with the kings. Actually, the brothers started for different directions to inform the respective kings about King Yudhishthira's intention to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. The kings were thus informed that they were required to pay taxes for the execution of the sacrifice. This payment of taxes to Emperor Yudhishthira meant that the kings accepted subjugation before him. In case of a king's refusal to act accordingly, there was certainly a fight. Thus, by their influence and strength, the brothers conquered all the kings in different directions, and they were able to bring in sufficient taxes and presentations. These were brought before King Yudhishthira by his brothers.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
disciples of Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
Jai. Okay, so I'm gonna try something else now. Please bear with me while we stop hearing. And I'm gonna do another screen share. I should be able to see it, and they should now be able to see it also.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. I'm not sure what they're seeing on mine. They're seeing the notes. Okay. Let's try something else. Please forgive me, everyone. All right, I'll just leave it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It says the Rajasuya sacrifice and Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, but we're not sacrificing Srila Prabhupada.
What? Srila Prabhupada there.
No, but you gotta wait till we
Is there?
reveal it.
Okay, all right, they can see that now.
You can see.
Yeah, okay. And let's see how that would work. Go to the next thing. Wait a minute, what happened today? That should be it. All right, perfect. Okay. And you all got it too. How did that work out? Okay, so Hare Krishna, everyone. It took a little while, but so we have a few verses which are describing the mood of Yudhishthira Maharaj in a conversation with Lord Shri Krishna and his actions in order to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice, which will be coming up. Actually, just after this, I think it gets into some quite juicy bits with Jarasandha and that whole fight. But unfortunately, we didn't get those verses. We got these. And from looking at these verses, though, Bhava Bhakti was really inspired to see the similarities between the mood of King Yudhisthira and also the mood of Srila Prabhupada. So in that way, we're going to look at the Rajasuya sacrifice principles as well as Srila Prabhupada like that.
Okay, so the first parallel is that the desire to glorify the Lord.
And here's Prabhupada now, you can see him on the screen.
Yeah.
So in these 3 verses that we read, Yudhishthira Maharaj wants to, and also the previous verses explained, Yudhishthira Maharaj wants to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice to glorify Krishna. He's not doing it in a way for his own self-promotion and to show, look at my majesty, look how much wealth and power I have, but he actually expresses his desire in the royal assembly that I want to do this to glorify Krishna. I want everyone to see his position. In the same way, we see that Srila Prabhupada underwent so much preparation and sacrifice to come to New York to glorify Krishna, to glorify Krishna specifically in this day and age in the form of his holy name. And we see he did this at an age where, let's be honest, a lot of us wouldn't want to do that, want to come out of our comfy armchair maybe, or our comfy homes. And if you compare from where he came from, the Radha Damodar temple, to come to the Bowery, which, because I now seeing the Bowery from London, which is like the Radha Damodar temple to me in comparison. It's not very nice. So it's quite amazing what he did actually. And so if we do step aside and allow Krishna to be in the center of our activities or endeavors, it's actually very successful just by doing that. So just the intention as well of Maharaj Yudhishthira and Srila Prabhupada makes them all successful.
So I was thinking on this point, to desire to glorify the Lord. We were also blessed last night to have Adi Purush Prabhu's association at the Prabhupada meditations session in 26 Second Avenue, Matchless Gifts. And of course, being in Matchless Gifts, as we're seeing here, is just the epitome of Srila Prabhupada's desire to glorify the Lord, how he came here to New York and planted this seed of bhakti. You know, I just have this beautiful visualization, just planted the seed of bhakti, 26 Second Avenue, and that seed sprouted and grew with the loving devotion and the chanting and sincere endeavor of the devotees and Srila Prabhupada. And now that tree is like all over, like a banyan tree, great banyan tree. Every city of the world, Prabhupada's mission and movement, Lord Chaitanya, chanting of the holy names is going on. But I was thinking specifically with this desire to glorify the Lord, that, and Adi Purush was mentioning this last night, that it's really important that we check our own consciousness when we're performing an activity. Not just speaking, as also was mentioned last night, like I think this or I think that, but what does Krishna want me to speak, and what will be beneficial to others? You know, how does Krishna want me to act to become that instrument? So we have to see, what is my ambition? What is my desire? What is my goal? Am I truly trying to please the Lord, or am I trying to glorify the Lord? Or, as I heard in one lecture, or am I just dressing the Lord with my false ego? And this is a really heavy statement, especially as a pujari and someone who dresses the deities. When you do these kind of activities, is it that I'm just trying to show off my own stuff, or am I actually trying to bring pleasure to the Lord? Or am I rather desiring to be seen? And that reminded me of how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained that we shouldn't try to see the Lord. We should try to act in such a way that the Lord sees us. So I was thinking how that really means. Prabhupada said that our centers, his centers all over the world, they're embassies of the spiritual world, and therefore each and every one of us should become ambassadors of the spiritual world and be representatives of the spiritual world. And in that way, we become ambassadors, and we can cultivate within those embassies the Vaikuntha qualities and create the Vaikuntha atmosphere so that the Lord will be glorified by the actions of his devotees. And then Srila Prabhupada said that you will know my disciples because they are perfect ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen, yes, like that. Hare Krishna. Okay, maybe not.
So the second parallel between these verses and Srila Prabhupada is seeking blessings of the Lord before we act. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, like we said, was in the royal assembly. His seniors were there, elders were there, Lord Krishna was there, and he specifically is seeking the blessings of all those present, and specifically Krishna, before he actually executes this endeavor to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. In the same way, when Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta and it arrived in Boston, he wrote this famous poem, this prayer, and he's seeking the blessings of Krishna, and he's surrendering, and his mood is, however you want me to act, however you want me to dance, then make me dance. So this mood of surrender to the Lord before we endeavor to do something for the Lord, as it were, is present both here in Srila Prabhupada and Yudhishthira Maharaj.
Yeah, beautiful, that prayer, Markane Bhagavat Dharma, where Prabhupada is just so humbly professing himself a insignificant beggar and saying to Krishna, I have no idea why you have brought me here. Why, what is surrendered? So why have you brought me here? But if you like, you can make my words audible. You can make my words understandable to these people who will likely not even understand me. And many of the early devotees said that we couldn't even understand what Srila Prabhupada was saying. But we could see that he was so convinced, and his sincerity and the love and the care that he showed. So like that. So I was thinking, how do we seek blessings of the Lord before we act in the same way? Whenever we chant this Mangala Charanam prayers, I like to chant it before I do anything. And there's a statement Mother Jamuna was telling us in London once, how she was with Srila Prabhupada and Govinda Dasi. And he was asking her to start typing manuscripts. And she said, Prabhupada, I can't type, I can't do this. And Prabhupada said, before you start, just chant these Mangala Charanam prayers. He said, and if you chant these prayers sincerely, then Krishna will hear you and he will help you. And so ever since I heard her say that, I thought, yes, whenever I start, to start with these prayers and try to take shelter of that. But it also reminded me of this tendency to seek blessings before we act. These days, a mantra that I hear a lot is like, don't ask permission, rather ask forgiveness. Which means, let me go ahead and do it, whatever. And then later, I can beg forgiveness. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes that probably isn't a correct modus operandi, but it is often considered better that we get blessings before, instead of asking for forgiveness after we did it. So, yeah. Confirmed. That was confirmed right there.
So the next parallel is surrendered. Yudhishthira Maharaj's brothers, they were told by Yudhishthira Maharaj, go out and to the different parts of the world and conquer these kings, as it were. So they're loyal, they're submissive to their elder brother, and they do his bidding for him. And in the same way, Srila Prabhupada always is loyal and submissive to his spiritual master. And he actually spent many years contemplating, how am I going to fulfill this instruction to go to the West and preach in the English language? And he even prepared by translating some of the books, one or two, 3 books in English before he came, and he had them with him, because this was his preparation and this was his surrender.
So I was thinking just about this term surrender. And I remember hearing a lecture by Burijan Prabhu where he was saying in the West, surrender is like a negative word, because it means that's right, you lose. Exactly. Thank you so much, Angel. Yes, surrender means somebody loses. Whoever surrenders, they give in and they lost. He said, but it's not like that. In Sanskrit, the terminology is not like that. Surrender means to take shelter, of. And in order for us to surrender, we heard the word in the purport at the end of the verses, that the kings would have to accept they were subjugated. Now, if someone comes to you and requests you to be part of the mission, and to give something for the sacrifice, for the pleasure of the Lord, then actually our mood should be like, this person is actually trying to help me. This person is trying to engage me and my wealth in service and help me to become free from karmic reactions by using that wealth for my own sense gratification. So actually, this is a worthy person to be subjugated to. This person will protect me. This person has my best interests at heart. So this is the mood of surrender. And the verse and simplicity of surrender, Srila Prabhupada states that we simply chant. Here, actually, I have a verse here that really inspires me. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:33. Krishna Tomara Haya Yadi Bali Ekabar. Maya Bandha Hoite Krishna Tara Kare Par. One is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya. Who wants to be freed from the clutches of Maya? I mean, all of you are not. You're not in the clutches of Maya. All of you are already free, but let's pretend for a moment that we're not. So he says, if he seriously and sincerely says, so we can all repeat this together. Yeah. My dear Lord, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in this material world, today I'm surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service. So just by saying that seriously and sincerely, we are freed, immediately freed from the clutches of Maya. So Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami cites this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita just before he quotes a verse from the Ramayana, where Lord Ram basically says the same thing as he mentions to the assembled devotees and Hanuman and Lakshman when they're saying that you shouldn't trust Vibhishan. He's come here and he says, no, even if Lord Ram comes before me and surrenders, takes shelter of me, I will give him protection. And in this verse, Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami, the word abhaya is there, and he says that I will give him fearlessness. So powerful. And courage, like that. So beautiful.
The next parallel is traveling Sankirtan. So the Pandava brothers were sent out by Yudhishthira Maharaj, as we said, to different parts of the globe to go and subjugate, to conquer the kings and to spread this message of Yudhishthira Maharaj as to what he was going to do. If they were reluctant to take this up, then they were challenged to a fight and defeated. In the same way, Srila Prabhupada traveled all over the globe in different directions, and he asked us to listen to the plans that he had of glorifying the Lord. So either some of us have taken up this message, so that means we've willingly surrendered, just like those kings did, or like unfortunately some kings chose to ignore this message and we get defeated. But unlike the time of when the Pandavas were there and they basically killed those kings or captured them, we're defeated by the material energy. So either way, we're either choosing to surrender, or we are choosing to be defeated in this traveling Sankirtan.
Yeah, I really love this visualization of Srila Prabhupada, you know, like King Yudhisthira. Of course, Yudhisthira sent out his brothers, but Prabhupada sent his disciples all over the planet, all over the planet in the mission of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya said, my holy name will be chanted in every town and village. And Srila Prabhupada took that up, as he said, he took up the order of his spiritual master as his life and soul. And then he inspired his disciples to do the same thing. And they went out and they tried. And in different places, there were obstacles and opposition, but even Srila Prabhupada, and you know, many now, some of us who have a little bit of gray hair, we know that there was once a thing called the Iron Curtain and a whole idea of what was going on there, and no one could get behind there. Even Srila Prabhupada went behind the Iron Curtain and planted that seed, transmigrated that seed, that plant of bhakti behind the Iron Curtain to one young man who became so inspired that actually now, as far as I understand, you know, the Russian yatra, if you include also like Lithuania, Ukraine, and all those places, is one of the largest yatras on the planet. You know, so from that, you know, that traveling Sankirtan, just see, and that even too in places that didn't want to surrender. But Prabhupada was like, no problem. Just planted one little seed and just see the potency of his Sankirtan. So like that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
And I guess in the same way, we're also going to need to go out and do Sankirtan. We also, it's not that we just rest on the laurels, as they say, of what Srila Prabhupada did, but we also are going to have to go outside of our own comfort zones to give this message to others, to help others, because so many people are suffering in this world. You know, I was just recently with someone and we were talking about different devotees and, you know, just having conversations with different devotees in different parts of the world that we know. And the material energy is just beating the hell out of everybody. I mean, what was it the other day we saw on the screen on Mataji here? She got bit by a bee, stung by a bee. And last night hearing a devotee talk about the challenging situations he faced with his family and, you know, and health and the world, the economy, and just people were talking the other day about just getting health benefits in this country is like crazy. People have to remortgage their house just to look after their health, you know. The material energy is very heavy. So we need to give people something that can help them and give them some solace. So we're all going to have to do this.
And so the final parallel is collecting taxes to use in Krishna's service. So in the purport to verse 14, Prabhupada explains that the various kings were taxed, and this was collected and brought back to Maharaj Yudhishthira specifically to use it for the Rajasuya sacrifice. It wasn't for his treasury, you know, it wasn't for his use for his family, his wives, and stuff like that, for the palaces. It was specifically for that purpose of the Rajasuya sacrifice, which was to glorify Krishna. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada had immense wealth. There was money coming in. There are big temples. There are books. There are so much wealth around what Srila Prabhupada did, but he only used it for the purpose of glorifying Krishna. It wasn't that he was thinking, okay, so let's build this big temple and tell me now, what are my living quarters going to look like? You know, what are my rooms going to look like? He didn't do that. The disciples may have provided facilities for him. But as we can see in Mayapur, if you go to Mayapur, the straw hut that he was staying in. And especially now when you go there, because you've got the straw hut and then you've got TOVP, just, it's quite a sight to see. It's amazing. And Prabhupada said that straw hut should stay there as well, just the beginnings and that. So yeah, this is Srila Prabhupada doing everything just to glorify the Lord.
Yeah, it reminds me, such beautiful analogy. And one interview in the airport, and Srila Prabhupada was there, and this I think it was a lady, maybe it was a man, I can't remember now. But they said, Swami, we noticed that you came to the airport and, a fancy car, and you have all these temples, you have so much wealth. So Swami, where do you get your money from? And Prabhupada said, well, we get our money from the same place you get your money, from God. So basically it's all coming from God. It all belongs to God anyway. We somehow forget, and we think, when somebody was saying, like, if you have some money, you're like, okay, one for me, one for Krishna. Two for me, one for Krishna. Three for me, one for Krishna. But Krishna, although he's happy and pleased to accept what we are offering, but this one devotee was describing that he's also looking over our shoulder to see what we're holding on to behind our back. And he just wants to see, what are you holding on to? Because what you're holding on to ultimately is it's behind your back, and it's going to bring you back. So we have to be careful, because it all belongs to him. Now, that doesn't mean, I was just reading this beautiful statement, and I think it was Sri Upanishad this morning. And Prabhupada, he had just quoted the verses 9:30 to 34, Apichet Sudaracharo verses in the Bhagavad Gita. And then he's describing, which I hadn't realized before, that what Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, which is that we live parallel lives. We have, there are dual lines that we live on. We have our material and we have our spiritual. And in this way, basically, he says that they run parallel, but sometimes they kind of bump into each other or cross over each other. But the point is that he mentions there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that we have to look after the body. You have to look after your health. You have to do certain things in life to survive that will apparently seem to be the material path, but at the same time, the spiritual path should be very strong, like that.
You would say everything belongs to Krishna. I heard when someone said something to Prabhupada about, I'm giving this to you. You have nothing to give. It belongs to Krishna.
Exactly. Yeah. It already belongs to Krishna. So what is this, like going into the bank? I think Prabhupada said you can go into the bank and say, I renounce all the money in this bank. And it's like, what a silly guy. None of it belongs to him. It belongs to the bank. So like this. And then there was another example I was thinking of in this regard, but it's kind of going out of my mind now. So anyway, the point is it all belongs to Krishna, and in the end, we're going to donate it all, because it all goes at the time of death anyhow. So therefore, let us give generously. And also, taxes don't necessarily just have to be money. Our donation doesn't have to be money, because more valuable than money in this world is time. So our time, because money, you can always get it back again. Any millionaire, billionaire you speak to, they'll say, I've been bankrupt several times, but they made it back. But time, Chanakya Pandit says, 1 second spent cannot be returned for all the money in the world. You never get it back. So how valuable is time? So like that. So we should give our time to the mission of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So that is us done. Okay, so
India? Is that India over there?
sorry,
Picture, wondering.
I have no idea. It's an automatic screensaver from Apple. You have to ask. I'm really sorry, I can't tell you. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, it looks like me right now. Right? Oh, okay. Okay, so we can undo that. All right. Okay, so if anyone has any reflections, questions, comments, concerns, chastisements. Okay, we've got a few hands up. One is William. William has 2 hands up. He is like some mystic yogi. I'm not sure how you're doing that, William, but dear Lord.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Mataji, what a wonderful class. I enjoyed it so much. And it was so wonderful seeing you in person yesterday. Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you.
I really love the part that stood out to me from your class that I can relate to was the one of giving Krishna consciousness, sharing Krishna consciousness. We get it, but do we share it?
Mm,
And that's what Adi Parush Prabhuji said yesterday. And you were mentioning it today in service, devotional service. How do we get up and serve and take part? And every day of my life, well, about a year, it's been about a year now, I really got serious with my devotional service to Krishna. I've been praying to Radharani, and to Krishna more readily, and I've seen the blessings. And just yesterday, when you saw me, there were two misfortunates on the sidewalk, and they looked hungry, and I said, "Well, we don't have a festival here, but I can get you something to eat." So we spoke a little bit. I shared Krishna consciousness with them. And then I said, before we eat, can we pray? And so they had prasadam. It's my belief, that if you pray and you offer the food with love, it is prasadam. So, Krishna, blessed us yesterday to have this opportunity to share Krishna consciousness with these two misfortunates. They were homeless. I gave them the opportunity to come to prasad distribution at Avenue A, 7th Street. The Adi Purush Prabhu and the volunteers have been doing this interfaith in action for over 20 years. So I was very fortunate to meet Adi 20 years ago. Anyway, I'm talking too long. I want to give room for others to Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Haribo, thank you so much, William. Beautiful to meet you last night, and thank you for your wonderful example. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyone else? Anyone here in the temple room? Anything I would like to share?
I have a concern, Jai Nitai Prabhu.
A complaint, did you say?
A concern. Can I
Okay.
express concern? What if our attempt to surrender is taken as a sign of weakness by people who we're dealing with? How does surrender look externally? How does it manifest in our daily life? And who do we surrender to? When, in other words, how do we know if now is the time to surrender, or maybe we should do something about the situation we're dealing with? How do we know in a surrendered state of mind?
Okay, beautiful. So I got two questions there. One is, how does surrender look to those who are maybe not surrendered in the same mission that we're in and like that? And the second one is, how do we know when to surrender? And you said, and when to do something about our situation, which highlighted something for me. I don't know, did you want to say anything on this?
Yeah.
Not yet, okay. So first one, well, Yeyatamma prapajante tams tataiva bhajami amam. So Krishna says that, everyone follows my path in all respects, and ultimately everyone's surrendering. So whether we like it or not, everybody has a boss, and they are forced in one way or another to surrender to the laws of the state, the laws of the society. And you can try not to, but then you live in perpetual fear of being caught or doing so many things. So whichever side of the law you're on, you're surrendering. Everyone has to surrender to something. That is actually the nature of the material energy, that it forces us to surrender either to the material energy, or the beauty is that as devotees, we accept that we're going to have to surrender to something. So we surrender to the source of all bosses, to the boss of all boss, the Deva, the Lord of Lords, and we surrender to Krishna. So how that looks to others, of course, the definition of surrender and our extrapolation and interpretation of what that looks like. Okay. the extrapolation of what surrender looks like. We just had interjection from Siri here in the temple. So the extrapolation of what surrender is, I felt like kind of came out in the second question, which is like, how do we know when to surrender and who to surrender to? And in the same way, that surrender, when to do something, you said. And it just reminded me of the principle of humility. How often people think humility means just being a doormat for people to walk all over. And I don't think that is the case, because Prabhupada said Arjuna was the most humble because he went out and fought on the battlefield. So it's not what we do, as I was saying this yesterday to someone, it's how we do it. It is the consciousness behind what we're doing. So Arjuna killed his entire family and annihilated so many people on the battlefield, and he was humble. Why? Because he understood that this is going to cause me great pain within my heart, but it will please Krishna. And if it's what Krishna wants, and if it is the right thing to do, then I will humbly do that act. So the humility and surrender is not necessarily what we do, it's the mood with which we do it. So Srila Prabhupada came to the West. So many people may come from other countries to New York, and what do they want to do? They want to get rich. Did Prabhupada become rich? Heck yeah, he became rich. He probably became one of the wealthiest Indians on the planet at that time. I can't imagine if you summed up all his wealth. But as, again, Adi Prushru was mentioning yesterday, he wasn't doing it for him. He was doing it for Krishna, and he was doing it as a glorification of his spiritual master. What was it? Just see. My spiritual master is making me a jewel. I love that. Yes.
You know, that's one of the most difficult things in the beginning of class about it, when you have people come in the El Krishna's love, and all of a sudden they're learning about Arjuna being told to go to war. That's one of the most difficult things to have.
That's right. It definitely is a difficult thing. Yeah, the whole Bhagavad Gita, which is all about yoga, meditation, is on the battlefield. So, okay, Jeffrey has a question. Let's see if we have time. I think we're going to be pretty close, Jeffrey, but please, you can start.
Hare Krishna Prabhu and Mataji. Thank you for this class. I just had a question about the verse from the Madhya Lila, the Chaitanya Charitamrita that you mentioned, about, although I have forgotten you for these many long years, if Krishna is the source of all remembrance and forgetfulness, then are we to understand that the forgetfulness is our culpability, or is it an awareness of the realization rather than admittance of fault for the forgetfulness? Does that make any sense?
I'm going to say something real quick. We have to act as if it's up to us, knowing that it's up to Krishna. So with that, the conscious flow. Hari, you're going to.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Shri Radha Murida Gaurachandra Sir Bhagavan Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna. Everyone looks surrendered after this class. I was looking at Jeffrey Eckler secretly, at Vanisha, and Mungi, Anandi. Somebody was driving, Ishwari Sundari was driving. She looks very surrendered while driving. See, the class works. Krishna consciousness works. Just one class and you look surrendered. Okay. Anyone wants to speak? We're going to do a quick afterglow. Okay. Narottam Nitai says, this time factor of Krishna is something I need to surrender to. Yeah. Krishna is always on time. I was reading from C.S. Lewis the other day, and C.S. Lewis said, don't doubt that God will be on time to reciprocate with you. Just don't rush him up. Don't force him. When the time will come, things will be revealed. Vasudev Prabhu says the other day. Certain things take time to be revealed. Sundaranandaji, are you checking if you look surrendered? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm surrendered, but at least I can try.
At least we can look like we're surrendered. Yeah. Act as if you were in control, but internally we should know that it's time to surrender to Krishna. I have to confess something. I lost my temper yesterday and I regret. It's just so ridiculous. You've been around for so long and you've heard this so many times. Don't lose your cool. It's not coming from this person. It's coming from Krishna. It's your task. And then I lost it. So please bless me that I become surrendered one day when the test comes. It's easy to be surrendered when nothing happens, right? In class, it's very easy. But when things come up, sometimes we just lose it. Okay, here's Adi. Anyone can relate to that experience? Shishikshashtakam, third verse. What is it, Narottam Nitai? Hold on, Ishwari Sundar is going to relate. Hold it.
Okay.
Ishwari Sundari.
I was just going to say that I think there are some exceptions to losing your temper, like automated phone calls. When you can't get a live representative, we should make that an okay. I have no patience for it. I've tried to do the Krishna conscious stuff. It does not work. But there really isn't another person on the other side, so they don't really get affected.
Yeah, that's a tough one. if it's a robocall, how do you see Krishna there? How do you see it's coming from Krishna? You see it's coming from somebody, some algorithm. But it's Krishna testing us. Yeah, ultimately, it's Krishna on the other line. Absolutely. Ishwar Sundari. Thank you. Adi Purusha Prabhu. Oh, hold on. Narottam Nitai was saying something. Third verse of Shikshashtakam.
Yes, Atunatapi Sinishena, Tarorapi Sheshna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. And they been I was saying this to my friend yesterday, is Kirtaniya Sadahari is important. And if your anger is aligned with Krishna consciousness, where you're using it in the service of Krishna, it should be it should be fine. I'm not that advanced to know the difference. But if through our anger we lose some connection with Krishna, then yeah, we can reevaluate. Of course, being from Pandavas, he used to get very angry many times, and for the righteous reasons. So yeah, he's very strong as well. So Hare Krishna.
Yeah, aligning anger with bhakti. Interesting. I was, as you were speaking, Narottam Nitai Prabhu, I was thinking about my wife's anger. It's always valid. It's always purifying and uplifting for me. Always aligned. Okay, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, Guru and Shastra say some things about anger. Lust, anger, and greed are the three gates to hell.
Thank you.
So we have to be a little careful.
Morning affirmation.
We have to be a little careful about anger. Just like fire, you can use fire to cook, you can heat the house, you can light the room, or you can burn the house down, right? We don't just throw fire around. We use the pot holder, we use the fire extinguisher. So we have to be careful with anger. And certainly, like anything else, it can be used appropriately. Wait a second, Eden's getting in the car here. Certainly, like anything else, it can be used appropriately. And Srila Prabhupada would, my observation was that he would exhibit anger, but it wasn't uncontrolled. Just like a surgeon uses a scalpel, it's very sharp. You can cut the heart open, and do something remedial with it. Or if you're just slashing around with it, it can actually just be not such a good thing, We have to be very careful. It has to be a lot of love mixed with anger. We're doing it because that's what Krishna is asking us to do. If we're doing it out of concern to benefit somebody else. And Prabhupada's anger was, my observation, theatrical. I said no! He would like that. Oh my God, like a lion. And it would be scary. But then, the person would leave and he'd go, okay, so this is what we're going to do. It was like you saw that he wasn't uncontrolled. It wasn't like he was overwhelmed with anger, but he was doing something. We can be, like she was saying, you have this amalgorithm or a robot phone call. We can calmly appreciate that there's some things that we're not very enthusiastic about accepting, but if like I had this terrible experience 2 days ago. I was so frustrated. I was trying to do something for Krishna service and trying to get this printer going because we were called to speak at 26 Second Avenue last night, and there wasn't time to print out what I was trying to print out, and I could feel this burning. I mean, really seriously burning, frustrating anger welling up, but I didn't let it go out because I could see. I was seeing it's my mind. My mind. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, "My mind, thou art not a Vaishnava." It was the uncontrolled mind. It wasn't the situation. The problem was my poor choice to respond to the difficult situation and get disturbed by it. And it says that the Brahmin, peacefulness is the first quality of a Brahmin. Peacefulness, control, austerity, purity, tolerance, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So peaceful is one of the austerities of the mind. The first one is serenity. It says in the Bhagavad Gita. What is the austerity of the mind? Serenity, simplicity, purity of thought. So one who can control the urges of the senses and the pushings of anger can make disciples. Well, definitely anger is pushing, but sometimes it's just stupidity. It doesn't really help the situation. Anyway, just sharing a few things Prabhupada told us about anger. We have to be careful.
Thank
Well,
you.
go to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Sorry to
Thank
talk.
you. Thank you, Adipusha, for very valid contribution. We can use anger if we can handle it, and it's okay to use it in Krishna consciousness. But what if this unreleased anger, that can lead to cancer and some disease if you don't channel that anger, if you just rip. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, what can repression accomplish, right? If there's some anger boiling, bubbling up, then we don't channel it anywhere. It can lead to, I don't know, all kinds of conditions. What are some Krishna conscious ways of releasing anger, if any?
If it's something to be done with care and deliberation, just like the scalpel, just like fire. We don't just release fire. It has to be focused and carefully and remedially used. You don't give a child matches. We have to be there. There's verses that say there's the tabletop, the object of the senses. Then there are the senses, the fingers. Oh, it's smooth. Oh, it's cool. I like it. I don't like it. There's the object, then there's the senses. Then it says Indriya Brahma. Then there's the mind, higher than the fingers. There's the mind, and then there's the intelligence, which is higher than the mind, like that horses and the chariot with the different pullings and pushings. You're going to release those horses. You're going to steer them. So we engage the senses, we engage the mind, but we don't just release it. There's an urge, pushings of anger is there, but if we're intelligence, we use our intelligence. The intelligence is higher than the mind. But if we don't use our intelligence and we let the mind predominate, and we let the senses pull, and we let the uncontrolled anger release, you're just going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else with that. If you don't have intelligence, then the anger will burn and hurt somebody or hurt ourselves. It's in the Buddhist sutras. It says anger is like holding a knife with no handle.
Yeah.
So it says it can burn your house down. Be careful. Be careful with this powerful urge. What about sexuality? What about anything? If you just follow the urge and release it, that's ridiculous. Only a low-class person or an animal or somebody on a platform lower than an animal makes a choice like that. We can choose.
Okay, and then how do you understand this? How do we understand this verse in the Bhagavad Gita where it says, what can repression accomplish in the context of anger?
Okay, we don't stop the horses from stampeding, but we steer them. We don't put out the fire, but we use it very carefully. We're not talking repression, we're talking about engagement.
Yeah.
It says the mind is more difficult to control than the wind, but Krishna says it is possible to control it by constant practice and by detachment. Just like the other day, I was just burning frustration and anger bubbling up, but I was detached from it. I said, this is my mind. This is my uncontrolled mind. Am I being the slave of my uncontrolled mind, or am I the master of my mind? So Prabhupada's teaching us to be Goswami, to control the senses, to control the mind, and to become the master rather than the slave. So we have a choice. Don't think we don't have a choice. We just have to be angry because I'm angry. You're making me angry. No, you're choosing to be angry. You're choosing to be angry. Don't choose that. You can choose something else, but it takes practice. to ride a horse, to use a scalpel, to use fire, you have to have intelligence and practice. You don't give a little child a gun. It can be powerfully destructive if it's used whimsically. So it's a matter of how intelligent we are, and it takes practice. So we have these instructions, and we can see, oh, this is my mind. My Bhaktivinoda course is my dear mind, thou art not a Vaishnav. Right? By concentrating detachment. I was listening to two kids, 7-year-old kids walking by when I was working on the farm. And one said to the other, my mind is very disturbed today. 7 years old. He was understanding because of hearing from devotees. I see this going on, but I know it's not me. My mind is very disturbed today, and then we can reveal our heart and our mind to another person, and it helps us to control our mind. That's what I did. I was telling Uncle Bhima, boy, I had this tremendous storm going on inside. And he was laughing. Anyway, I'm talking too long. I'm sorry. All glories to Srila, who gave us
Thank
these.
you. Thank you.
We have to hear this stuff.
Yeah. Okay, nobody looks angry on the call. We can wrap it
Wait a
up,
minute.
I guess.
I'm telling you, I'm talking to
He's
you.
telling me. Wait a minute. Let me turn you off so that he doesn't. Okay, just
Should I mute you, Adipusha Prabhu?
yes, please.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for tolerating us, for letting us be in your association. Karen, are you ready? Is Isaiah around? No, not today?
Maybe not today.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Okay.
So let's Jeffrey Eckler, would you like to fill in for Isaiah?
Hare Krishna.
Nice. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Who's that? Venetia. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.